Great, we're live. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. This is where I kind of go live every now and again and take your questions, and let's see where it takes us. I'm going to be making some much more serious predictions from September, because that's the time I start to make my predictions for 2024. So I'm going to start taking a longer view, and I'm taking into account all your questions that you've been asking me here online, and we'll be dealing with all the different countries of the world and all the different topics that are coming up. But today I want to talk about what's happening in the news at the moment, and kind of the little question: has the world gone completely mad? So, see you in a minute. Coffee with Craig. Well, hi everyone again. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. This is where, as I said, we're going to talk about what's happening in the world just for a bit. So I haven't got anything prepared at all today. I thought, what should I do today? I thought, oh, blow. I'm just going to go in and let them throw questions at me. So you guys are coming in live now. I'd like you to prepare your questions, and I can sort of take what you have, what you want to ask, and try not to over interact if you're in the chat rooms. Put things in that don't talk to each other, chat, because it throws it out and I can't get your question because I'm doing it by myself here today. And then we can have a chat about what's going on in the world, and has it gone completely and totally bonkers? Because frankly, I look at the news nowadays. I don't know what you guys feel, but I look at the news nowadays and I'm scratching my head. Look, all the hair's come off. I mean, it's just bonkers what's going on. And as a psychic, I think, us psychics, we're often sort of think you're all a bit bonkers loony, you psychic people, they say. But actually, nowadays you could come up with any prediction about the most weirdest thing under the sun, and actually then suddenly it's out there. Everything from UFOs to presidents in prison to oh God, you name it, it's out there, isn't it? So these are very, very interesting times at the moment, I think. So just as you're all coming in, because I'm giving you time to come in, also I'm going to have a look through your questions in a second. So I've got one eye on that, but we'll talk about whatever you put up there as well. But just before we start, let me just sort of say to you, I'll advert while I'm waiting for you to post your questions. Have a look on my website at psychics.co.uk and in the description below, because I'm doing a lot more what I call spiritual workshops about how to develop your consciousness, how to develop your spirituality, about meditation, about connecting with the spirit world. They're all live now online. There's only a couple up at the moment, but I'm going to be putting these up regular, and limited number of people that can come to it, really, that is properly limited. So if you want to book one, go and have a look and book up, and you might be able to join me just for one workshop, or you can follow me forever if you want to become a regular. It's like a circle, like the circles in my book, Psychic School and others. I talk about how to develop a circle and the things we do. So I'm going to do the same thing I do in that, but online and more. Right, you got your questions. Okay, let's have a look at see what we can find. Let's have a look. That one, you better put it in again. Are we talking about UK or America or where? Okay, doke. That's quite an interesting question. But I'll just have a look what we got coming up here. Just bear with me. And I just say, I see you've got a few hellos coming. I'll just click a few hellos while I'm having a look. All right, I like that one, actually. That's an interesting one, because will AI overtake mankind? Now, I have done a whole video on that one, actually, but it's something that worries us all. And it's amazing how suddenly it started to worry everybody. It's like almost overnight, isn't it? If we go back to 2022, actually, 2022, when I was first making the predictions, I said about some of the upcoming worries with AI. And then suddenly this year, it's all over the news as people suddenly realize just how powerful this thing is. And it's incredible. And I've used it for bits and pieces. I've spoken to other authors, some one or two well-known authors actually, who said, yeah, I'm using AI because it can save a lot of the spade work. It writes stuff for you more or less on the hard stuff, and you can clean it up and make it your own, which I think is great. It's, in a way, it's a bit like having a calculator, isn't it? Why do all the math when you can just pop it into a calculator? I wouldn't. Could you begin doing a square root now? I mean, I don't do any maths in my head, and I think it's the same with AI. And this is the first danger: is it makes us lazy, because even at the level we've got it at the moment, where you can type it into a screen, it makes us lazy. But what happens when we get to the point where we can plug it in directly, like Elon Musk is suggesting and is working on, that we could actually start to get information? What if you were a worker in a factory doing a boring job and you say, okay, it's day one, put the chip in, you put the chip in your head, and suddenly you know how to pack fruit or whatever it's that AI is telling you to do. And then you are just sort of almost like an autonomy yourself, aren't you? You're just working on the, what do we become? And, will I become conscious is a question that we have to ask too, don't we? What happens if it becomes conscious? Can it become conscious? Can what we would consider a thing without spirit, a thing without a soul, could it become conscious? Because where does consciousness begin? And of course, the pure materialist will say, well, consciousness, why not? I mean, the human condition is just a load of chemistry, and consciousness is developed dependent upon the body. Body dies, consciousness ends. But those of us that are interested in the spirit world realize that actually consciousness can extend. It can create things like telepathy in this world, but it can also become something that exists outside of the body, in the spirit, for example. So I would be doubtful that AI could become conscious per se, but it certainly has the illusion of having a self. And I thought about it, and really, when we look at the idea of the great yugas and the Kali Yuga era that we're in at the moment, when you think about it, it's really the pinnacle of Kali Yuga, isn't it? Because it's like humanity without humanity. It's the ultimate materialism. It's the ultimate, it's the ultimate money-making machine. It's pure materialism. And what do we need humans for if all the jobs can be done using AI? But it misses what I think is the fundamental thing: is what is it to be human? These are questions that come up in lots of sci-fi things as well, don't they? But what is it to be human? So we have to ask ourselves that question. And I think when we realize what it is to be human, and each of us perhaps have to come about this our own way, but being human, okay, we are an animal first and foremost in this physical world, but we are also what we is a spirit that continues into the next life, which you can prove to yourself if you do the search. I've spent a lifetime searching to understand that. Became a medium, and I believe, not only believe, it's not believe, I know it completely, that life continues after death. So consciousness is not dependent upon my brain. So will AI overtake mankind? Possibly. Will it replace mankind? No. And I think it's going to be an interesting question as the way it goes ahead. My feeling is, like everything, it has good and bad. It has the possibility of destroying us, and it has the possibility of enhancing us. But once a thing's been invented, we can't put it back in the Pandora's box. We got to run with it. They were saying the same sort of things in the Industrial Revolution. Machinery is going to take over men's work, and yes, it did, and it has, and it caused terrible problems. But at the same time, it solved many others, including giving us even bigger problems than they even anticipated in Victorian times, like our weather and things like that, and the rest of it. So, interesting point. I think ultimately, I think it will be of benefit. It will be of benefit. I mean, I'm friends with people who, for example, chatting to Deepak Chopra, and he was saying he thinks it's a good thing to, that it will ultimately be a good thing for mankind. And I agree with this. I think ultimately it can be. It all depends on us, doesn't it? How we use it. And one thing that we're learning in the world is we cannot allow people to self-regulate. As soon as you give a company, say, you have some moral codes and do it properly, very, very few of them do. So I think we do need very heavy regulation. And of course, then's the question, who decides the regulation? God, I've gone off already with that one little question. Thank you for that. Let's see if I can grab another one. Now, so many coming in here. Okay, I'm going to grab a few here. Okay, grab that one. I know, because a lot of you want to know about Justin Trudeau. I'm going to do some proper stuff on Canada. One of my predictions I see did come about with that, because didn't I say that Trudeau and his wife would separate? Do you remember that? People have been emailing me about that. I tried to find the link on YouTube. I couldn't find it, but I do remember saying it. It must have been buried away in something somewhere. So could this now be the end of him? I mean, he's always come across as the goody family man. Here's my wife very beside me, that's supporting me all the way. We're a lovely woke sort of couple and everything's glorious. Question marks now. I think he's on his way soon. So I predict Trudeau is gone very soon, probably before the next Canadian election. Just grabbing them as they come. So I'm not, because they're moving so fast, I just grab a question, because I see them on the stream down the side of the screen here. Can you see a great spiritual revival? This is something I've spoken about quite a lot, guys, haven't I? And I believe that a lot of religions, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, they all talk about the coming of great beings that come later. We get Maitreya coming as Return of the Buddha. We get the avatars coming from talked about in Hinduism. We talk the second coming of the Christ said in the Christians, and all of the religions of the world all seem to point to this idea of a second reappearance of the great sages and teachers of old. I think they're all onto something. It's not any one religion or another, because what I see is coming, many great beings will come into this world who are not just enlightened, but have superordinary powers. And that's how we know many of them, things that will completely boggle your mind. You imagine what it would be like to be with somebody who has attained such levels of consciousness that even in their presence, we can't even control our normal thinking. We are pulled out of ourselves, almost impossible to comprehend. This is what it will be like, I feel. It will be beings that come on Earth that have gone way so far beyond normal thinking that we find it almost impossible to understand them. It won't be somebody speaking with great words like I do. It will be somebody who just does it. You look at them and pow. And I think this will come. I don't believe these will be space people or anything. I believe this is just highly evolved spiritual people that take human form. And more importantly, the great spiritual revival, it will come before that. And that might be some time ahead, and that will be gradually coming one after another. They say between 2023 and 2025 should be the time of this happening. When I say they say, it's in a number of texts that seem to indicate between 2023 and 2025. So it hasn't happened in 2023 yet, has it? But I think we're right on the cusp of some of this revival, as it were. And the spiritual revival itself, what is a spiritual revival? You know, I don't see it in terms of religion. I don't even see it in terms of compassion to one another or material things. I see it in terms of people awakening. You know, it's like people becoming more conscious. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I walk down the street and I look at the world. You know, has it gone mad? I look at the world and think, you know, I think to myself, yes, there's going to be a great spiritual opening. There's going to be a great revival. And then I look at the people on the high street in front of me and I think, oh God, could that person ever awaken? Could that one? Could that one? And I start looking and thinking, oh, this is a load of robots. These are all people that, and then I think to myself, no, every one of those people is a soul awakening. Every one of those actually is an awakened Buddha walking around, but they just don't realize it. And when the great awakening comes, as it were, it comes all of us one at a time inwardly. And you might even not even noticing the person that they've awoken, because, you know, awakened beings don't go around screaming, hey, I'm awakened. Hey, I'm an enlightened being. No, they don't do that. They're the ones that have been distracted and gone off the wrong path. They just know, and they retain that knowledge. So that's how I think it will come about, Peter. Thanks for a great question. I'm grabbing them as they come. I'm going to go in about all the economies in 2024 when I'd start my predictions from September. I'm having a kind of a bit of a break up to them, but September, I want to. That's when the Nadis have told me to launch it all. But I think we're going to see some very serious, very, very serious economic problems in 2024. We will. And we've already had inflation, and they're kind of saying, oh, well, it looks like inflation's looking a little bit better now. But I think mid-2024 worries ahead. But I want to save all this for my main predictions. Okay, I'm picking that one because I just like your name. Your mother was a lovely person giving you a name like that. Boris Johnson. Yeah, I thought one of the things with Boris Johnson, I thought it was he just recently, they asked him to go on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and I believe he's turned it down. And I want to say good on him with that, you know. And so there's still a bit of good left in him, perhaps. Let's see which politicians go on there and sell their soul for commercial gain. I suppose you could say with Boris Johnson, you don't need to, because he's making loads of money outside of in all the other things. I think we might see a bit of a comeback from Boris Johnson. I don't see him as being a prime minister again. It's not quite a question, it's more of a comment, but that's an interesting thought, because one of the things sorry, I've had a bad flu again, so it's coughing with Craig again for you guys. The aliens question, why reveal all that stuff now about aliens when these guys are talking about aliens and it's all suddenly all over the news? It's kind of come at an interesting time, because the alien business was all released at the same time they were leaking a load of stuff about the Hunter Biden laptop stuff again, and all the Hunter Biden conspiracies with China, you know. And like we had Trudeau earlier on, I said about Trudeau would all be revealed about taking backhanders from China. That seems to be happening. I'm convinced that Biden and the rest have taken huge backhanders from China. The corruption in American politics, not on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, all of it is so deep. And, you know, and it would be so easy when you've got lots of money like China and you want to bring another side down. to use money to corrupt people. And I think that whole alien business was an absolute whitewash just to keep the headlines on track. And just we didn't want any big revelations about that. And now we've got just enough time to release the next lot of attacks on Donald Trump, you know. So I think that was all about keeping Donald Trump as the bad guy in the news. It was all about making him look like he's bad. And we just keep throwing. We can't get him on this court case. Now let's try to get him on this one. Now let's throw another one. And frankly, I think the whole world stood back and saying, hey, there's a stitch up going on here, isn't there? So I'm going to talk a lot more about that in my predictions from September onwards. But, you know, it is scary, actually. I think it's more scary than the aliens. See, got any more alien questions here while we're at it? I think I grabbed one, then missed it. There's one. What are you saying? How do aliens comprehend demons and angels? I don't know, because we've never met the aliens, have we? And I've never seen aliens in my spiritual work when I've tuned into spirit. So what would they be? How would we see them if we were to tune into the spirit world? And what would we see? We'd see gods and goddesses, wouldn't we? We see them in a form that we could comprehend. We could perhaps even see them in their true form, which might be, I think, like the snake-like beings, where we see the naga, for example, the winged serpents from South America, the Kadakas and so forth. The bringers of knowledge are snakes, as in the Bible. So we would probably we would probably see them as gods and goddesses in our visions. And how would they comprehend good and bad? Probably with a similar moral standards to us. Hopefully with a higher moral standard than us. And they would face exactly the same universal problems we would have. Truth to them would be the same as truth is to us. We would have to find what I call universal truth, a truth that steps above day-to-day truth. You know, we have the moral code that can govern the truths of the world, codes of conduct and all that, but there's a truth that's higher, and that is the same for aliens as it is for humans. A lot of people, aliens and demons, I don't know. Okay, I don't know where you're getting that guy from. Right, interesting ones. These are ones I'm saving. I don't think, I get a feeling Biden's not going to make it to the election. I think he either be impeached or be removed. But again, I'm saving this for later on. I'm saving these ones for later on. Will it ever be brought out into the light? Well, it's being brought out into the light, you know, and not only the corruption. I mean, we got the same here in the UK, and we got just the same in European Union as well. There's all sorts of things being done behind the scenes. How else would it be that, you know, everything, all what's good about our worlds, you know, what we would say about the Western world, for example, we felt that the great things we have with democracy, opportunity to do things in life, you know, good moral standards towards, you know, not having slave labor anymore, not having people working in dirty factories, not having children climbing up chimneys and all the rest of it. We centuries of work to bring a society that seems to have good values, with still major more to go. And then what happens? It all suddenly gets thrown away. All that work, years and years of work in you know, Wilberforce and everything here in the UK, and all the great minds and presidents and, you know, all the rest of it that came through the American history. And then suddenly it's all thrown away, and everything, all our manufacturing goes to China. We don't seem to have any opportunities for the people that were born in our countries. We always rely on cheap imported labor so that we can have our own slaves, as it were, again. And so something's been going on, hasn't it? And I think the corruption, I don't know what you think, you know, put comments again, because where do you think the corruption comes from? It's not just the USA. It's not just the UK. It's not just Canada, because we talked about Trudeau. So it's seeped into everywhere. It's seeped into every part of society. I think a lot of it is to do with countries being over destroyed clandestinely. It's being done secretly. It's being done with money placed here. The world's being brought down by brown envelopes handed to people with the cash in it. That's where it's all coming from. And will it all be brought into the light? If it was all brought into the light, we'd never be able to cope with it. There's just so much of it. But certainly, I think a very large part of it is being revealed and will be revealed in 2024. I think 2024 is going to be one of the most difficult years politically we've ever seen. However, it's going to be one of the most important years we ever see, because it's going to be a time when, the scum comes to the surface and we have a chance to get rid of it. We never sort it all out. We can never get rid of it, because it's human nature to look after yourself first. But I think we're gonna start to see, because of what's happening in American politics, there's going to be a lot of elections around the world next year too. So it's all going to be brewing up. And I think the common people, us, we're going to start thinking, hey, we've had enough of this. We really have had enough of this. And we're going to start seeing much more forces to try to force change. But it's going to be a big job. Globalism has caused a lot of problems for this, because, there's money that's out of control. There's money shifting around country to country, not just, backhanders in Parliament. It's all over the world. And I think we will do it, But really, again, coming back to one of those earlier questions, when will there be a spiritual revival? Every time we look out into the world, there's problems there. It's always going to be an awful place, isn't it? It's always going to be a place where we're going to see bad things. I don't think we'll ever sort it out. Even in a golden age, there'll still be problems. But the true awakening, the true happiness can only be when we're at peace with ourselves. We can go into our I've got a meditation room, as you know. If we go into our meditation room and go into the silence, there is the golden age. There is perfect peace. There is perfect harmony. There is bliss. When you're unattached to everything, even family and everything you love. But in that moment of peace, everything's as it should be. And that's something that all of us have. It's not just for the holy men or people that spend a lot of time in meditation. That's everybody can find that, because in that place there's peace. We'll never find it outside. That's where we go wrong. We're looking for happiness in the wrong place. We think it's out there, and that's why so often all these madness that's going on. Jane the other day called it that the world's on menopause. Which I thought was quite funny, because it's a bit like that. The world's gone bonkers, particularly, but we got to be sussed out ourselves. We're never going to sort out all these people with crazy ideas. How can we ever sort out all this, all this, to be honest, this LBGQ or WXYZ stuff? I mean, that's people that, in my opinion, that are completely mixed up. We can't sort those people out, or the people who have developed such short attention spans by always being on social media, including this perhaps, but these are longer, so you've got to have some attention to get this far. But we're never going to sort these people out. We're always going to have a nutty world out there, and it was always the same in earlier years too. There was just as many daft people around. The problem is nowadays they all get a platform, and nobody's allowed to say, hey, that's nonsense. We're not allowed to say the emperor has no clothes. We're not able to do that, are we? We all have to button our lips and not say anything, and all be nice and kind and appear to be nice people, and it don't work that way. Sometimes you've got to call it out. And I think that's one of the problems of the world. I don't know what you guys think, but it can be problematic, kind of. Crikey, there's a lot of comments here. I'll grab one. Yep. There you go. I'll go into that one in detail. I think he will. In fact, the more they throw at him, the more it's going to go his way. I'm not going to cover that one yet either, but that's an interesting one. But I'm going to say about that, and cryptocurrencies I'm going to deal with. Possibly. Okay. Sorry to make these so slow, but I want to save a lot of this. Got that one. Oh, blimey. Lots of comments here. That's an interesting one. Oh, I got the same, clicked on you before with lots of people who are asking comment. But you've been asking some interesting questions, I think. I think we will, excuse me, I don't think we'll necessarily see a population complete collapse, but I think our worries about overpopulation might be overstated in many ways. I mean, the world's bursting at the seams at the moment, but it feels like that because so many of the populations of the world are pushed into smaller areas, so into our cities. So, for example, here in the UK, we're absolutely bursting at the seams with too many people come into the country, and we don't know what to do about it. Same in places like Sweden, and same in places like the Netherlands, same in France, so that's got more space. But all this, quite often, the smaller countries and the cities of those countries have become chock-a-block, and it appears because we've got bad housing and nobody's spent money on building new houses. It appears that we're bursting more than perhaps we are. Once a society becomes affluent, usually what happens is the birth rate drops because you don't need to have children. Most people who have more children than they need to are often the people that have worries about being supported in their old age. This particularly it happens with rural communities in places like Africa and so forth. You have more children to make sure there's somebody there to look after you when you're ill. Understood. But as soon as you get affluence, then there's not that need to have quite so many children. So the process of population ending slows down. You know, I think there are too many of us because we have got massive overpopulation really worldwide, but whether it's going to topple things and destroy us completely is another question. We will find new ways of generating and making food. I think I've said this before. I feel there's going to be some energy source that's going to be invented, which they're talking more and more nowadays about, but I've been saying it for a long time, that one of the saving graces for the world will be unlimited energy, and the greening of the Sahara and the greening of Australia and so forth, which will bring massive problems as well, because it will change all the weather of the world, but it will also, I think, feed the world. I think we will get there with that. I feel we will, but the problem is it's the speed of it, and so we're still on the danger zone, but I think eventually it will ease off. Well, the so-called disclosures we've had so far, I think, were a little bit of a distraction. So have we got anything even now in 2023? I think we will get much more by 2028, of course, because stuff will come out of the come out of the files, because it's past its official Secrets Act's disclosure time. I think we will. I think people think there's more there than there is. My feeling is that the aliens that came to Earth, which they did, were ancient. I really do believe there were ancient contacts with people in far distant past. Whether they still have contact with us or not, I don't know. Why would they need to do it on a physical plane when we know other planes exist? In so many teachings, it says they come through these other planes of existence. They come through the Lokars, for example. There's the Naga snake people come through the Lokars in the Hindu teachings. In they're hidden away in the Garden of Eden. It's like, why do they need to come on a material level? I don't think we'd need to. If you understand the idea, like city powers, for example. Supposing they're completely true, which I believe they are, a person can bilocate. A person can be in two places at the same time. I've seen it. Oh, I haven't seen it, but I've known it. It's been described many times in ancient teachings that a great teacher can be in two places at the same time. Supposing those things are possible, that's how we would travel. We would travel in an interdimensional way, not necessarily with technology at all. I talked about Oppenheimer a little while back, and people pointed out rightly that the ancients, when they had like the Brahma bomb type things, these were done by meditation and consciousness, not by any material device. So our capabilities, The capabilities of human consciousness are incredible. We just happen to be living under the cloud of Kali Yuga, as they call it, the age of ignorance, the age of iron, as the ancient Greeks called it. We're living in the dark age at the moment, so we're not able to use our powers. But when we do, that's how we would interstar travel. It won't need machinery, you know. Maybe we'll even be able to do the two, but that's how I see it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna start finishing off in a moment. There's some really interesting questions here, so it's very tempting. But as I said at the beginning, I'm also doing some new stuff at the moment on my website. I've got workshops on there that have just gone live yesterday. The limited spaces, but you'll be able to interact with me through Zoom. I'll be teaching some of my techniques of meditation. I'll be teaching some of the mediumistic type of stuff that I'm doing. Some of the first ones are about the third eye and also about the aura. But you can buy an individual workshop, or you can join me regularly, and you know, you'll get a bit of discussion like this some of the time, but also be able to interact with me. And we share some meditation, so we can join together to start this whole business of awakening. You know, I mean, I'm one of many, but you know, we need lots of little sparks in the world. We need a dark sky needs to be full of stars, and I hope to be able to do a lot more of that type of work as time goes on. So, also, it helps support this channel to help support my work, because you know, we've got to live in as well. So that's that little bit. So let's just take a few little comments just as we go, just some sort of general things. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. You again? I keep you. Yeah, so you're all just sort of saying thanks and hello and bye, and yeah, so thanks again for joining me again. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, do put them in the below, because I'll take any question. I'm still looking for anything you want to ask me, because it's hard when we do these ones. But I'll do a few little live ones like this every now and again, because I think it's just fun, just seeing what comes up randomly like this. And you know what I'm doing? I'm stalling time because I'm trying to find the ending. And I can't. There we go. That one to do. All right. Yeah. Okay. So don't forget, have a look at my site again if you can, guys. Psychics.co.uk. Have a look and see if you'd like to join me for the workshops. I'd love to see you. Okay. Bye for now. See you soon. If you look back at my earlier predictions, and in particular the predictions I made on the newspaper, The Sun's website, I did actually say on there, the actual words were, there will be a flu epidemic linked to bioterrorism. And my thoughts are that Liz Truss will make it to the final, be the next PM. I think she will actually have a final battle between her and Rishi Sunak. We've not seen the full end of Boris Johnson either, I tell you. But Rishi Sunak actually will eventually, I feel, be the next leader of the Conservatives. So I think there's going to be a few conflicts that Britain's going to be drawn into, including I think Russia is going to take some moves against Ukraine. I think she will make it past her platinum jubilee, which comes up this year. But I think after that, we'll see a sudden and quick deterioration in the Queen's health. And I think we might lose the Queen towards the end of 2022. There's going to be a huge backlash from over the Netflix programs and screening, because I feel it comes out
at a bad time. Charles will come to become King Charles. But his reign, I feel, will be short.
And funnily enough, actually, another royal prediction came true only yesterday, which surprised me really, because it was such a weird prediction I'd made. I predicted in my earlier videos from 2021 for 2022 that the king, I said Prince Charles at the time because he wasn't actually king at that time, but I said that Prince Charles would be hit by an egg. And of course, there it is, all in the press today.